a very thought-provoking intervention. I think most of us must have enjoyed it a lot. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of questions. Who would like to start? Yes?
Yeah, this was a great presentation. This idea of how to detect these pictures in this volume, and I wonder whether this is also kind of research on influence in art history, as long as the way you identify these gestures and poses are, on one hand, obviously a kind of emotional expression, but on the other hand, also a kind of imitation of the artist, the ancestor, so to speak. And so I wonder if this is also a second idea in the whole identification of these poses. Because I remember a project for the CDOC, the CIDOC, which is a big volume on cultural heritage, and this was trying to identify influences in art history by using the same idea of angles and the way those fit together. And so, yeah, this is the first big question. The other one is just about whether it's really the idea of Warburg goes back to Dürer also, because Dürer is the one you mentioned in this speak, and this was missing. I missed the melancholia picture.
Ours was not a study of influence, but it could be. I'm just saying we decided to focus only on morphology to see if just if one could come up with a quantitative way of addressing morphological issues. How then to go back from morphology to history? I mean, on the basis of this, one could trace a history. And I think actually Leo will want to do that. History and the Atlas Mnemosyne is a little complicated because even though that is the aim, actually the evidence that Warburg puts on is historically enormously discontinuous. There is a focus on a couple of centuries and then millennia of silence, so it's a little complicated to do that on the basis of his own work. But obviously it can be done in other dimensions. It just was not what we were trying to do here. But simply because one cannot do everything at once, not because we thought it was not to be done. Just a matter of time.
I'm sorry, perhaps I missed something. In that case, I'm really sorry. I'm just wondering, you are working, your analysis is based on both pictures and statues, or more precisely, two-dimensional representations of human body and three-dimensional representations of human body. And I'm wondering about the way of measuring the angle, because it's something very different. Okay, if I put my hand like this, it's a very different angle in a three-dimensional statue than in a two-dimensional representation. So I'm wondering how to,
No, you're totally right. We decided to use the two-dimensional productions that Warburg had used. So basically, we treat Laufon as if it were a painting.
Okay.
It's not a great solution. Let it also be said that the vast majority of Warburg's images are paintings, even though, interestingly enough, a lot of the Pathosformel are statues. And some of them most extraordinary ones, Laufon, Atlas, the Pedagogue. So it's a little tricky in that. We decided to, this is Warburg looking at his pictures. We measured that.
Thank you. Well, unfortunately, I'm not at all familiar with Warburg's corpus, let's say. But for example, the pictures he presented on Orpheus, and it goes in the direction of what you said. I was wondering what the relationship between the iconography and your approach is, because obviously, I mean, you have different iconographies, like Orpheus dying would always be represented the same, or the nymph, or Pietà with the arm you were showing. And did you look into that, or would that be to look too close for what you do?
No. I mean, well, Pietà, it's exactly right. I mean, just even only Michelangelo could do 3 enormously different things with it. But yes, there are iconographic traditions that inevitably, this, was for Warburg not particularly important. What he was interested in was the survival of forms, even beyond the obvious reproduction of the same figure. So, for instance, for him, it was very significant to find a Maenad, or a woman, in the gesture usually associated with Maenads, under the cross, as a penitent. For him, that was perhaps the most stellar cases. So, following Maenads would have never led you to the cross. Do you see what I mean? It would have created a whole series of Maenads, but it's these leaps, and in a sense, working with a program that recognizes movements independently of whether this is Orpheus or whether it's another character, follows an aspect of Warburg's logic, it seems to me. The aspect that leaps across iconographic traditions and transgresses the boundaries. You're not completely convinced.
No, I was just then wondering, I think the whole concept of Pathosformel is so vast that it's kind of hard to grasp. Then, is there any painting or artwork not showing pathos? Isn't it the whole...
The vast majority don't. The vast majority don't. I mean, look, here, these are the Pathosformel. All the rest is not. These are all bodies that exhibit no pathos. Now, in many paintings, you could have one Pathosformel surrounded by a majority of bodies that are not pathetic. Or you could have just a whole painting. Think of Vermeer, painting after painting in which there is no pathos that you can recognize. No, pathos was not, was a central concept of art history for Warburg, but because it expressed extreme emotions and therefore relatively infrequent ones. Now, that said, I tried to make it clear, it's a concept really shrouded in ambiguity, to say the least. It's, just think of this, it's a concept which is central, in his case, to art history, but it's actually at least as central, one could say perhaps even more central, to tragedy. So, to, a form where there is a series of actions, there is a diachronic dominant that is completely absent from painting. So, it's really, many of these figures, not all of them by all means, but many, Orpheus is one of them, of course, are also characters in tragedies, real potential. And, it's like a snapshot of a scene.
Thanks for a wonderful talk. One of the critiques that is often laid at the door of quantitative approaches is that they find what we already knew, sort of a caricature version of that would be, doing this quantitative analysis of all Jane Austen novels, and the result is they're revolved around the selection of the fittest made. And then there are other kinds of results, such as your talk now, that seem much more satisfying, or the first pamphlet, I think it is, of the Stanford Literary Lab, where you do see that computer algorithm can detect the same kinds of genres as the human eye, but that they do this very differently. So
Yeah.
to me, as someone who's a literary scholar but not engaged in quantitative analysis, there are some results that seem more satisfying and some that seem more disappointing.
I agree.
And I was wondering where your take on this is. You know, the results you have, this seems a very satisfying one. Are there any disappointing ones, or how do you make that distinction?
Oh, I definitely make it. Not many people like it when one makes that distinction from within the field of digital maps. Let me say, I would say in general, even though initially I hoped that these methods would change our view of literary history, that has happened almost not at all. Whereas what has happened, in my experience, is that they have changed important aspects of our view of literary form, or aesthetic form in this case. You know, that the algorithm can see genres but differently from one. Why? Because it focuses on different units. And so all of a sudden you start thinking of genre in terms of other units, which means style of the scale of the sentence, which was also a collective enterprise, right? Does something like that. All of a sudden you see a well-known concept like style, you see elements that stylistics had not seen. Not necessarily incompatible with stylistics, but different. So there's really an enrichment. I repeat, I would have thought, you know, history much more than morphology would have been changed by these results. It seems that the opposite is happening. And the most interesting results have a morphological nature. This is a study of morphology in our history, as I said in my first. And of course, this is a limit, but it also allows you to focus more closely on what is relevant.
If you may, I know you need to leave first. May I ask just
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was wondering about what you make of baselines. Did you measure the variation compared to a baseline from each of those modules that you have? And do you use that for interpretation?
For what I understand, as I said, the programming was done by Leo, but from what I understand, K-means clustering has no baseline. Okay. You say we want 16 clusters, each cluster then is organized around a central node that could be seen as the baseline of the cluster, but there is no absolute baseline.
So it's more like a virtual model that has many realizations.
Yeah, that's how I understood it. And speaking of baselines, this is a question that never came, but maybe you may have noticed when we present our here, see, the spine is always vertical, which of course is violence made to the data. But since so many of these images are, you know, reclining, folding, etc., that would have obliterated any other difference. I mean, if you're folding, if you're asleep but horizontal, that would have created an enormous amount of noise. So we decided to put all figures with the spine straight and only calculate movements vis-a-vis the spine. This actually captured Pathosformel very well. But it's clearly an artifact. I mean, like much of this work, you have to do a lot of decisions that intellectually make some sense, but are not in the things themselves. You're really creating models. This may have been, this clearly has a shortcoming, because think of this. Where is it? Lauvon, so much of the pathos of this is the arched spine, right? And we obliterate that. We still capture Lauvon as a Pathosformel, but we clearly, was there an alternative? We thought a lot and didn't find it. Will someone find a better alternative? I'd be very happy. You know, this is a limit of the experiment.
So it's not possible to, on one hand, fix artificially the spine, and then on the other hand also add the actual angle of the spine as another parameter?
Maybe, but then But then all the calculations of the angles of the limbs get, I mean, then you get two sets of calculations. Maybe, now that you say it seems possible, we need it.
So you need to leave, right? Is that correct? So I think, well, that was a bit too quick, but
Yeah,
it
I'm
was
sorry.
also delightful. I think everybody really enjoyed this lecture. So many thanks, Franco.